Hello and welcome to the Knights Guild video. My name's Moody Hound and we've got with me today Josh, who is one of our roundtable Knight Generals, but also a fantastic content creator who does lots of great content on Cardano projects. I'm subscribed and I watch a lot of the videos and I always comment on how good they are, Josh, and they seem to be improving every time, so great work there. And what we're doing today is we are talking through our white paper. We are recording this in advance and it will be published when we issue the white paper and our website, which are all excitingly chugging along in the background, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks we are going to be issuing those two items, as well with some other key announcements to the guild and also to a cornucopias community. But the purpose of today is to go through the white paper, and the first thing I want to say is this is version 1.1. There are some elements in this white paper that we cannot cover today, but what we'll do is we'll go through the intent of what will be covered when we've got the relevant information from the cornucopias game. And as per everything, I'm just going to read through the standard caveat which we all know and love. In summary, you can see it there in red, but all items in this white paper are for demonstrational purposes, and we are heavily dependent on the information from a cornucopias game so we can develop information further. Investment is at your own risk, and all of that usual stuff. I just also need to add the Knights Guild of Cornucopias is 100% dependent on the cornucopias game. So I just wanted to cover that bit. So before we go on to the white paper, I'm just going to hand over to Josh just to introduce himself to those of you that don't know him. And yeah, over to you, Josh.
All right. Hey, my name is Josh. I'm a content creator over at Late Game Crypto. I joined the Knights Guild, I want to say, probably a little less than 2 months ago. I am obsessed with what you guys are doing, and I'm glad to be a part of it. And this particular document here has been one that is super exciting for me. I'm excited to get this out to the public, to let people know what we've got going on here in the background. And yeah, let's jump into it.
Brilliant. Thanks, Josh. Can you do me a favour? If we get any questions in the chat, which is in the bottom right hand corner of the video, could you read the question, interrupt me and read the question out, please? Because
Sure.
if I touch anything on my desktop at the moment, I'm likely to mess up with OBS and it'll be a disaster for the video. So, all right, we'll crack in. We're going to try and make this as natural conversation as possible. Josh does know a lot of the information in here, but he is great at asking great questions, especially to me. He tries to make me feel uncomfortable all the time. And I would really encourage anyone in the chat to ask any questions or make any comments as we go through. So, as per every white paper, we've got a contents page, and don't panic. It's 17 page. There's 37 pages in the white paper. We are working on a light version of this, and we will do a number of AMAs and videos to explain in more detail as the information evolves. So the structure of the white paper is pretty straightforward. We've got the vision, the mission. I want to touch on the approach of the Knights Guild. I think that's really, really important. The Knights Code is what we honour and expect our leadership and our members to abide by. We've got something on definitions, and that will grow, and no doubt by the time we publish the white paper we will have probably a lot more definitions than we've currently got. Then we go on the asset reward pool, then income and revenue. A number of this section is actually blank at the moment because we need information from the game. Then we've got quite a large section on guild NFTs. I will brisk through a number of these because we've got specific videos on the Complete Night series. Then I'll touch on guild governance, which is going to talk about voting and our wallet structure, multisig, and our wallets, sorry. Then the structure of the guild, resource and asset management, night and player management, lore, artwork and social media. And I need to touch on the technology section. We are not just a guild which is collating lots of players and running around a metaverse. We are a tech project, and we have some technical requirements to enable the guild to allow us to deliver our vision and our mission. I'll touch on the team. I'll very briefly touch on the Knights token, and then we've got some partners, and then the Cornucopia Guild Alliance, and then work in progress are the 3 roadmaps, which will be finalised by when we issue the white paper. So, any comments on the contents page, Josh? It looks an awful lot of information there.
Definitely a lot of information, but that's just because everything that we've developed so far is so thoroughly thought out with the information that we have, of course, and making sure that we're adaptable in it. So
great,
that's what it is.
I think it might turn people off to see a 37-page white paper, especially when we start approaching players. So it's really important that we actually do convert this into a light paper for investors and a light paper for players. That is all in our future plan. So there's some things on here which are really important to the guild. So the vision, we want to create a thriving and rewarding virtual economy for all members of the Knights Guild. So that's a really, really powerful vision statement. We want to create a thriving and rewarding virtual economy for the Knights Guild. Our mission, the Knights Guild stands with its members and provides the necessary strategies and tools for all citizens to play, build, learn and earn together. So what I often say about when we talk about the Knights Guild is we are pretty much an asset and resource management organisation. We will own a lot of assets by the guild will own a lot of assets, and we are also enabling people to stake their assets with the guild. So it's the guild's leadership responsibility to develop strategies on all of those earning functions for our players and our asset stakers and asset owners to generate wealth together. So that is a really important mission statement. The Knights Guild approach. So I'll read through this because this concept is really important to understand as we go through the rest of the white paper. So the Knights Guild approach is to incentivize both players and asset owners to work towards a common goal and reward in a fair and inclusive way. Fair and inclusivity is so important to all of the leadership in the Knights Guild and all of its members. We want to be fair and inclusive. To create a large asset base with guild-owned assets, they are procured via the Complete Knights series NFT sales, and to allow players, venture capitalists, DAOs and high worth holders to stake their assets under the management of the guild, aiming to provide competitive and consistent rewards. Okay, I'm sure Josh will have some questions on that. To create a common incentive and goal, and to utilise the guild assets, all of the guild players will be issued with NFTs, allowing them to claim from the guild rewards. This is an additional bonus that the players will generate through their own personal gameplay. So that is an additional bonus to try and incentivise more players to come and work our assets. To create a valued and empowered player base, and to provide training and direction to utilise all the in-game opportunities through the guild assets. Play to earn, build to earn. Sorry, play and earn, build and earn, and learn to earn. We have to use the and rather than to. I think there's been some problems in other metaverse games as for that, but that's the aim. The role of the guild leadership is to develop strategies and set the direction for players to maximise productivity and revenue from the game. So the guild leadership will be setting the strategies, managing that through our communication channels and our hierarchy, so our players can go and get the best value from the assets being staked or owned by the guild. Governance of the guild is through voting power that is proportionally represented across the guild leadership, asset owners and players. And a really important point, which I touched on earlier, technology will need to be developed to deliver this approach. So, Josh, the approach, we tried to get that as concise as we could in some really clean paragraphs, but Any questions or comments, or from a chat from the people watching live? Any questions on this?
Nothing in the chat yet, but I do have a question, and I don't want to get too ahead because I know that there's a governance section at the end. In regards to governance, the voting, as we currently operate before the launch of Cornucopias, we have voting capabilities within the Discord. Is there an intention for that to become a more on-chain voting situation?
So really good question. So yes, it is part of the technical requirements that we are talking to to Anvil on. We do need to develop an element of configurable voting, and it will be on chain. Anvil do have a platform that meets that, and we just need to specify the requirements on that. But yeah, really important. And it is worth noting that a lot of the governance and a lot of the decisions made outside the NFT asset groups will pretty much be a leadership decision. We've got this white paper setting out the approach, and the guild leadership will often make decisions with respect to the community and with respect to some of the short-term kind of like deliverables we need. We will just make the right call, and we will hold each other to account on that. So yes, that's hope that answers your question. Any other points on this you want to pull out, or should we skip forward?
Oh, let's keep moving.
Cool. So the Knights Code, I'm not going to read through that, but we hold this very dearly to our heart. There are some really important words on here which you can see in the bold. Things that really jump out at me are things like equality, gratitude, friendship, forgiveness. You know, these are really important kind of like, not the rules. We don't like rules. This is our code, and we will play and build the guild in line with that. So on to definitions. As I said, this will evolve as we move through. You will see throughout this white paper a lot of reference to player and or knight. Technically, they're the same thing. It becomes relevant when we go into the rank and knight NFTs. So yeah, that's what that is. So a knight is pretty much our player. Player performance API. As we will see when we get onto our reward framework, we will be offering additional incentive for players, and that is for longevity and also for additional bonus on top of whatever they grind in their own time. We will need to develop an API so we can link into the Cornucopias game and actually draw the data so we can actually structure, almost force rank the player's performance. So we are recognising high performing players against the lower performing players, and this needs to be consistent with you know. Sorry, my dog's crying in the background. This needs to be consistent. We don't want people feeling unjust because somebody's earned the same as them reward and not committed the same amount of effort. Asset staker. We are in discussions with a number of venture capitalists and DAOs and high worth stakers. That's a posh word for whales. And we do want to, we will have an asset stake in NFT for anybody who stakes their assets with us. I'll cover that in a bit more detail in a bit, but you'll see reference to asset staker quite a lot. The Complete Night series, this is ultimately how we're raising funds to buy guild assets. We've also got some rewards and quest NFTs in there. We'll touch on that in a bit. And then the Complete Night is what is burnt at the end of the series. We'll cover that a bit in a minute. Asset NFTs, so they are the Complete Night series that are directly linked to buying assets. And then you've got the asset vault. So each of our reward frameworks will have an asset vault. So all of the rewards and the prizes and the revenue generated from an asset group will go into the asset vault for that group, and the reward framework will be paid out from that vault. One thing which we really need to remember, if that asset vault doesn't generate, if those assets do not generate any revenue, that asset vault will be empty and the rewards will be zero. this isn't a Ponzi scheme. We're not prepaying for anything. We receive rewards and we distribute the rewards on a periodic frequency to make sure that we're actually got live rewards. But this is all money earned, money gained. This is not a Ponzi scheme, and I think a lot of I would imagine when we start getting a lot more stakers and stuff, that'll be really important that everyone understands that. And then the rank NFT, we obviously, as I've alluded to, we've got quite a lot of leadership in the guild, and that's really valid and really justified because we need to develop a lot of strategies. The rank NFTs will be there to recognise that structure and reward the ranks with additional incentives for supporting the guild.
Yeah, we got a question in the chat from Genius Knight. High worth stakers. Can you explain more about this? High worth stakers are land stakers or KoC stakers, and are there any established numbers for this qualification?
Right, so let's go right back to the point. So high worth stakers is a term we're using for whales. Let's be really clear. I don't like the term whales. I think it has some negative connotations in the blockchain world. And I'm sure whales don't like being called whales. Maybe they do. But that is what a high worth staker is. Your second point on what assets we can actually have high worth stakers. So each asset pool, each asset group will recognise its own independent high worth stakers. So if we've got a whale who has got 600 land assets and he or she wants to come and stake it with the guild, he or she will become a high worth staker for the land assets. And the same with transport assets, and the same for any of the other assets within that series. And to answer your final question, is there any calculation or measurement on what defines high worth stakers? No, there's not. We've currently got one of our Knight Commanders doing some modelling on all of our asset groups, so we can actually try and understand what these numbers will look like with respect to the rewards. And we also need a bit more information from the game economy before we can set what we are valuing as a high worth staker and what is just a player staker like myself. We will limit in some cases how many whales high worth stakers we have. We don't want to dilute the pool, the reward pools, so there will be a limit to what high worth stakers we can have, and there may be a waiting list for people to come and actually stake their assets with us. That would be a nice luxury to have. Optimistically, it would be great if we get to that limit, but like I say, we're doing a lot of modelling so we can make sure, one, we're not diluting, and two, we're not going to have 1 billion land assets and not enough players. So it's that knife edge we need to manage. Does that answer your question, mate?
Yeah, no, I think that does it. He also clarified here, the example of 600 plots doesn't sound like it could be a real possibility, knowing how much land that Cornucopias has sold. Not a question, just a comment.
Yeah.
He's trolling you, it sounds like.
and it's really interesting when you go on the land assets and you look at the top holding wallets. You know, the Knights Guild, we've got 200 land assets, and I think we're the second biggest holder out of all of the wallet holders. You know, so we would look at. I personally, I think I've got 30 land plots. I wouldn't consider that a whale category. Crikey, that would be interesting. I've never been a whale in my life. But yeah, we're doing a load of modelling on this, and it's really important we get that right. Because as you'll see when we go on to the assets, the reward structure, the high worth stakers will have an increased incentive over average stakers like myself, which we'll come on into a minute. So any more questions on there, Josh, or should we move on?
No, I think that does it, but I think it is probably worth mentioning in regards to the high net worth, the limitations that you were talking about.
Yeah.
There may be a possibility that we come to the point where there's a lot of in-game mechanics that we may have to consider and pivot once we get that information from Cornucopias, and that may very well mean that we're limiting even locations of land assets based on like what we can actually produce an ROI from. So there's that element of strategy to it that will be dependent on game mechanics.
Absolutely, and we're doing as much modelling as we can at the moment. I was off sick last week, and I've got a session this week or next week to run through some early modelling. But again, that is all conceptual until we get the information. So I've touched on rewards a number of times, and this section is all about the reward pools, and I will read through this just to try and get a really clear message across. So a key element of the Knights Guild strategy is to provide common incentives and goals, providing fair and consistent rewards to players and asset stakers. This will be achieved by configuring a number of reward pools based on the asset groups of the game and the distribution of revenue as per the agreed structure of the pool. Once developed, the multi-layered and categorized reward pool template will be configurable to select appropriate criteria to set agreed percentages for distribution. Okay, so what that graphic you can see there is the template. So this is based on what information we have, and we believe that with 5 categories and 4 layers, with a level of configuration in each of those components, we can actually provide really robust reward frameworks for all of the asset groups. We'll touch on that a bit more. I've got a detailed example earlier. But ultimately, all this reward framework, and we're in discussions about whether it's going to be on-chain or off-chain. It's definitely going to be off-chain initially while we do a level of testing, but we would like this to be on-chain by game launch. But ultimately, the input and payment from the game will be where the rewards from the game get paid into, and that is the asset vault. I touched on that earlier. And then that asset vault will be distributed between that matrix as per percentages. That will all be under governance, and we will have regular reviews with the asset holders on this structure, and I guarantee we will get some of these percentages wrong, and we will need to go through a level of change control to get these right. But there are 3 core areas which will be in every single asset group, and that is the asset holders, the management team, and the treasury. All of the other boxes on there are configurable. Okay. The intent here is, once we have this template developed, we can roll this out not just for transport or land or domes. This will be configurable for any asset in the game. So we're paying up front for the development. Once it's in place, that will include training of our team, and then we can just embed this structure and configure it for every asset group. Okay, so I've touched on the 3 mandated areas. Each asset group will have its own specifically configured reward structure. This will be designed to provide fair balance of incentives and common goals. See the structure examples below. The rewards will be claimable from guild issued NFTs at a to be determined frequency. So there will be an interface where you will go and you will connect your wallet, and there'll be a level of background information. When you connect your wallet, you will have one of these NFT, well, you'll have a number of these NFTs in your wallet, and you can claim that reward from that pool. So the 4 claimable NFTs are the asset staker NFTs. So that would either be a DAO, a whale, or a VC. That is intended to be a smart contract embedded into an NFT, which will detail the assets staked with the guild and for how long they've been staked. So when you log in, you've got that NFT in your wallet, all of the calculations behind from a reward framework, and you will claim that reward. All of our Complete Knight series are claimable NFTs, the shield and the sword, for example. So again, when you go and log into when you log in with your wallet, you'll be able to claim against your Knight series NFTs. And also, when we burn the Complete Knight will represent all of the Knight series NFTs that you have burnt. That will be captured in the attributes, so you will always still be able to claim from each of the reward pools with your Complete Knight. And then finally, the player and the rank NFTs will have their claimable rewards as well. Some of our asset groups will not have player rewards. An example there is the helmet. The helmet is quite a simple investment opportunity, and we don't need to incentivize players to actually buy helmets or use KoC. So that would just be the above and the rank NFT. The frameworks will be claimable from a the frameworks will be claimable and predetermined and agreed multiple claim points, such as player and asset stakers. So that is where you can have more. If you're a player, if you've got a complete knight and you're staking assets, you have got 3 claim points. Okay. Important. The income element, I've touched on this, but I'll say it again. The income element for all of the pools will be directly pulled from the in-game rewards and revenue. This detail is not yet known by the guild. If the income generated is 0, the claimable reward will be 0. This is why the reward framework is based on a distribution framework rather than a numbers framework. So we will distribute a percentage of a value. Note, in the early phase of the technology roadmap, the guild will partner with a tech organisation to develop our selectable reward framework. So as I've touched on, we are in quite good, very deep conversations with Anvil, and I hope that when we issue this video and the white paper, we will have a memorandum of understanding with Anvil while we are working on a contract. So I'm quite confident that will be in place.